enriching experience for everybody, everybody involved.
Thank you very much, Tobenna. Any quick words from Osemegbe and Tomisin before we start discussing our topic?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Tommy. So I work with Procter & Gamble. I'm the senior brand manager, leading the oral care and the chef care business. So essentially, I lead the Oral-B and the Gillette business for Nigeria. My job is just simple: create value for consumer customers, the company, and the community in which we live and work. Okay, I look forward to a very engaging session, and yes, that's it.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aito Joseph. I'm a sales manager for Pernod Ricard. That is a Jameson company. So for the past 7 years, I've sold home care, personal care, and now I sell whiskey. My core job is to drive sales, manage the sales team, measure distribution, measure share of shelf, and try to increase our influence in the market, the influence of our brands, the equity of our brands on the shelf and with our customers. So yeah, I look forward to an engaging section, and I have a few things to say about the future. It's exciting, it's interesting, and I'm happy to share that.
Awesome. Thank you guys for the brief introduction, and it's great to meet everyone on. So let's start with COVID. I think that's on the list of everybody and the mind of everyone. COVID has come, and we think things, the way COVID has shaken our economy, things have changed drastically. So with the effects of the COVID-19 on finances, will consumers be moving to lower price? Will we see a situation where people are now looking for cheaper alternatives, or will they be willing to spend how they've always been spending? What will happen to spending patterns? Will they still be loyal to brands, or would they now look at, price is my major determining factor when it comes to purchase? Tobenna, if you like, you can kick that off.
So let me start by saying this. Nigeria by default is a price sensitive market by and large. So as my fellow panelists who are, sales and marketing people will know to a large degree, there are different, you have different stratas in the market. So some elements of the market will be more concerned about value over price, but by and large, most a large chunk of the market is price sensitive. So by default, we love low prices. With macroeconomic conditions, worsening, definitely you have more people who were in that value over money segment now even going into the price over value segment. So for sure, lower priced products continue to be more demanded and more attractive to the market. And I don't see that trend reversing unless there's a change in macroeconomic conditions in the country. The only caveat I would, or the only, caveat I would add is that if you have something of a monopoly, or you have something of a market share control, then you can maintain high prices, and still the market would gravitate to you because there's no one else to run to. So I think that's the only situation where low prices, there might be an aggregate reduction in demand because people's buying power has reduced, but as far as being able to increase prices, also due to your rising cost of doing business and not sacrificing too much of your market share, if you have if you control it anywhere between, I don't know, 50-60% of the market to 100%, you can be able to play that game where and raise prices and still maintain a reasonable chunk of your customer.
Okay, awesome. So in that, does anyone want to add to that? In that, looking at that light, as you said, that yes, pricing. I think Joseph wants to say something. Joseph, you can go on, please.
I was going to add,
yeah,
for companies that decide to maintain their premium status for their brands and products, they have to be willing to spend more or put in more resources into maintaining that status of their products for their product. Because yes, as he mentioned, as Tobenna mentioned, was that Tomisin?
Tobenna, that was Tobenna.
Yeah, people will look for, customers will look for cheaper alternatives to the product, and it's already happening. The trend will continue. So for brands that want to maintain that premium status, they have to invest heavily in the perception of their products.
Okay, so are we going to see a scenario where maybe brands start maybe degramming or bringing out smaller versions of their products or dropping prices in very competitive markets when it comes to segments that are very competitive, where there are lots of brand playing? Are we going to see a scenario where just to eat up market share or gain market share, a price war, perhaps prices dropping and everyone dropping prices? Are we going to see a scenario like that?
I think there'll be more variants, more SKUs. So more sizes and more variants. I mean, by variants, I mean colors of the same kind of product. Colors and variations of the same kind of product. We are going to see more of this. We want the consumers to have more choices, to be able to choose. So yes, that is expected. And yeah, that's it.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Tomisin, you have Tomisin, you have something to say?
Yes. Okay, so definitely you would see consumer forming a lot of habits to compensate for their purchasing power. So for every inflation, for every Naira devaluation, people reducing power reduces and people compensate differently. But one essential thing we need to understand is there's something called value equation. It is not sacrosanct that consumers will entirely shift towards a cheaper product, but it's not entirely off the table. But usually, more often than not, they don't go to cheaper products. But how people compensate is usually a reduced frequency. For example, I used to brush twice a day. Now I brush once a day. I used to have my bath morning and night with, I use a very good soap. I use a shampoo. So you start seeing reduced consumption. I used to drink Coke 3 times a day. Now I can only afford once a day, and I make do with it once a day. People compensate for reduced purchasing power differently, and you need to ensure that your value equation with the consumers it's the same. And what do you mean by value equation? So there is this value equilibrium that's at a certain point. Your product at that particular price is no longer seen as economical. It's now seen as expensive. Okay, so depending on the quality of the product, the reason to believe what they enjoy from the product, and the price they think is fair to pay for your product. As long as you do not exceed those certain thresholds, I think it should still be fine. One thing brands also do a lot is also the downsides, because they understand that consumers are forming new habits and they are consuming less. So it's usually good you reduce the absolute Naira the consumer have to pay. So if, for example, you had an 100-gram product that sells for 1,000 Naira, why don't I launch a 400-gram, a 40-gram product that I can sell for a 300, for example? Still the same product, still the same quality, but the quantity have changed. So that way you can still compensate for entirely, rather than losing your consumers to other brands, you could still keep them within your franchise and still try to live with the new reality. Okay, but certainly your volumes will drop, but it's better to keep them within your franchise. So by the time the economy comes back to the boom, they are still within your franchise.
Okay, thank you very, very much for that, Tosin. I think Moderator dropped a comment and she said, unfortunately, prices are not dropping. There will be a portfolio shift, more introduction of mainstream products, but best believe the premium market will have its opportunities as well. Yes, which I definitely agree with. And then it brings me to another question. When we talked about how much the behaviors of these consumers will change, what are brands doing to stay ahead of the changing consumer behavior in terms of tracking data, collecting insights from these consumers? What are brands currently doing, and what should they be doing to be able to track this behavior? As they change, like you rightly said, things will change. So what should brands do? What are they doing currently to actually monitor these changes in consumer behavior when it comes to data, hard, provable data?
So data is life, right? Every company has different policy on how the kind of data they buy or collect. Usually every company has the sales data. Occasionally more companies invest more in buying the market share data, your equity data, and occasionally I usually recommend for marketing folks to talk to their consumers at least once a quarter. You need to understand that trends change and what people need from a product also change. For instance, many years ago, say some 10 years ago, female wanted dryness. That was their key needs from a sanitary pad. But over the last couple of years, it has shifted from just dryness to dryness plus comfort. Okay, so imagine you're still living in the age of just dryness, making a product that only provides superior dryness for your consumer, but you are not focusing on comfort as well. You lose eventually, you lose out of the big part, right? So you need to constantly stay in touch with your consumer, and there are a lot of that data out there. I think Nelson is the biggest name I know of, but there are a lot of data, and a lot of companies have different policies on what data to buy. Okay, but it's very important to always make a data-driven decision, because that's how you ensure that you stay ahead of the curve and are in touch with your consumers.
Okay. Just a follow-up question to that, and this would be for Tobenna. Are these brands currently collecting data directly from their consumers? Are they actually understanding what the consumers are thinking? How are they doing it? If there's a lag, what do you think can be done to actually involve the consumers more in the process?
Okay, yeah, so let me say, first things first, and I think Tomi alluded to that. Whenever we hear the word data, we always think it's numbers and figures and, all quantitative. But you see, data can also be qualitative. And I think that is an area where more can be done. So there's something about understanding the context of a situation where you may not be able to put it entirely in, in ones and zeros, but you would understand what the pause is. So just as Tomi said, if people want more of dryness and comfort, it's, while you can take a survey and and whittle it down to how many people are for or against, there's also something about going in and feeling and seeing how these things happen. And I think that qualitative data element is very important. On the part of really getting the pulse of consumers, because I have a personal belief that everything, most companies typically majorly interface with their distributors or bulk breakers And unless when you do activations or promotions, do you really interact with consumers. But if you want to enhance your interaction with consumers, one of the things you need to be doing is creating a robust platform for consumer feedback. So be it via email, be it via social media, be it via phone calls. But if you create enough channels for consumers to give you feedback, and that feedback should be as little contrived as possible. So what I mean by that is, most times when we try to create something, we already alter the purity of that feedback. So if I pick up the phone and call you, my feedback is most likely going to be more genuine than if you pick up the phone and call me. Because when you call me, I might want you to feel good. But if I'm just moved to pick up the phone to call you, chances are I'm giving you, because you didn't initiate it, I'm giving you my trusted or my genuine feedback. So just in a nutshell, I think more FMCG companies need to think about how their consumers can. So if I open a bottle of beer or a pack of noodles, and their experiences, well, typically the feedback is usually when the experience is not so positive. But if there's a way to instantly, so if there's a number, I say, well, companies have numbers, but if there's generally a way, sometimes it could even be it can just be unconventional ways, like even starting a stimulating maybe an Naira land conversation, an Naira land thread, and then people begin to discuss that, and then you begin to get very genuine feedback. So yeah, that's the thing. I think the more channels you create for feedback, the more you communicate that those channels exist, and you get that feedback, then the more data you're able to get about the consumer's experience, and the more you're able to enrich that enrich the consumer's life through your product.
Thank you very much, Tobenna. I think Joseph has his hand up. So Joseph, the mic is yours.
All right. Thank you. I was going to quickly discuss other ways of generating data, qualitative data, to add to what the former speaker just said. But I see that on the chat box, Moturayo is already talking about it. I think in today's world, social listening is a very good way of gaining qualitative data. At any point in time and real time, we can see and follow what consumers are saying about our brands. The everyday discussions they're having on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the Google searches, we can see what these guys are discussing about, the bad or good things. And then even this qualitative data, there are currently systems that can weigh this data and put a score to it, so that at the end of the day, you can check out the bias of the discussion being had on your brand or your product. So that's one way of pulling out almost free data. Talking about Nielsen again, Nielsen is an international company, and unfortunately, a lot of companies do not rely on Nielsen only. They rely on both Nielsen and internal generated data. Companies are doing more to generate or trying to shift more towards internally generated data, using their sales reps to get this data from the field. So they go from store to store, they take pictures, and they fill in forms on their mobile app, stating what products are on the shelf, what price these products are being sold at, and it's collated and aggregated by area. 2 years ago, a company, Setterfield, started working on an application that helps them recognize and count the number of products on any shelf, even in the open markets, the unstructured open markets. The sales rep goes to this place, goes to the outlet, takes a picture and submits. and the application counts, recognizes all the products on the shelf and makes a count of it. The advantage of this, of such apps, is that you can know what locations, what areas your products currently are. Also, you can know where they are not, know where they've been sitting down for too long without leaving the shelves. Basically have more grip on the position of your products in the market space. So yeah, that's that for me.
Okay, awesome. Now, we have spoken about a lot of things, and I think it would be remiss for me not to talk about the hard to reach markets. Considering we are in Africa, and for example, internet penetration is not where we want it to be. So what happens to the opinions of this hard to reach market? The people that purchase from the open air markets, the people who do not have smartphones, are we going to neglect these people from the data collection process? Or how then do we include their own opinions and feedback in the process?
Okay, let me quickly run on some information I got recently. While it will be difficult to get information from the typical end consumer, the people they buy from, which are the roadside retailers, in the next 2-3 years, it will be quite easy to get the information from them. We know what each roadside retailer will be selling. There's a short-term plan to provide phones and free data to over 1 million retailers in Nigeria. And I think that would be a major game changer. I mean, a lot of tech companies, one of the complaints they have in collecting data is retailers don't have data, they don't have smartphones. They are going to. It's a plan by, I don't want to mention these names, but really big companies, global companies. And the goal is to make sure that even the smallest roadside retailer on a tabletop retailer has free internet data and has a mobile phone to access the internet. Meaning, every sale they make, if you have the right routes, you can actually see what they're selling. And it actually provides you good insights into what the consumers, the shifting trends and what the consumers want.
Okay. Thank you. Tomisin, do you have anything to add on this?
There's several levels of data, and depending on how robust the value chain is, you will typically have data for each game player, for each player in your value chain, from your distributors to your wholesalers to your semi-retailers to the retailers, then finally down to the consumers. So there are different kind of data. For your distributors' data and wholesaler, you typically have internet data to take care of that. For the retailers, you have to use a lot of third party, like the one former speaker just spoke about. Nelson also covers about 1.2 million retailers today within their scope, which is a pointer. But for consumers, you need to go talk to the consumers. There is no alternative. Going in on doing focus groups discussions. There is this insight you generate when you are in a room with the consumers and you start asking questions and they start answering it. The one good thing I've always observed over the years is when you're in a conversation with consumers, when they tell you the reason why I'm not using this product is because it's not good, you need to dig deep. You probably have to ask 4 to 5 questions before you get to the root cause. So there is usually no alternative to having a sit down with your consumer, know what's their need is, what they need from your category, what you need from your brand, what you can do differently. But talking to them, there's no replacement for that. So in-homes, focus groups, consumer immersion always works. You need to go back. You always need to go back to the first principle to reach those people in the rural, not just in the rural area, even those in the cities. You need to do those sessions often, so you can learn about your category more.
Awesome. I think Tobenna was about to say something.
Yeah. So Tommy just mentioned the word immersion. I think that is a word that we can stretch as far as possible. You really need to immerse yourself. I think a focus group is even stage 1. sometimes, so even just let's look at a typical sales, let's say a sales supervisor or a sales manager. Regardless of all the feedback you get from the market, if you make just one trade visit, you will see 100, 1,000 things that can never be captured by a second party feedback of, say, your sales reps. So I think it's also very important to, as close as possible, see, feel, taste, smell what your consumers, the consumer experience. So sometimes you actually, as much as possible, you need to be where it's happening. So if for example you're a brand manager for Coke, or you're a sales manager for NBC, if you visit and you say, okay, I want to understand what the consumption pattern is like in your local booker, sometimes it might make sense to visit a booker, sit down in the booker and eat in a booker and see what other diners are going through, and then you begin to understand, because as I keep saying, numbers we would always have, but context sometimes has to be seen to be understood. So I'll just say that, back to the word immersion, you can never have too much immersion, so long as the ultimate aim is to, as accurate as possible, understand what it is that the consumer is about, and then you can make very informed decisions.
Okay, awesome. And I think just to add, while I agree very much with everything everyone has said, and I think the difficulty in collecting data directly from the consumer is one of the reasons why this is a sale, why Chekkit as a company existed. I think before, when we got into this, we had gotten into this to actually fight counterfeits. But the more we spoke to a lot of players in the consumer goods space, we started discovering that, yes, it was easier for them to collect data from distributors, wholesalers, but collecting data from the consumers in a way that was scalable. So here's the thing: focus groups are great, but how scalable is it? You would definitely, because it's focused, you would just get a group of people and speak to those people. But how about collecting it en masse, which is where Chekkit comes into play? Technology solutions like Chekkit, which is another thing I think players in this sector need to look at. They need to embrace new emerging technologies that are trying to solve this problem. I would have loved to go into details how we solve this problem, but this is not the time or place for that. If you're interested in knowing more, I'm always open to have a chat with you after our session. Don't forget, you can drop your questions, your comments in the chat session, and we'll definitely attend to it. Thank you so much for Tunrayo. I can see you have been very, very active in the chat session. Your input has been very, very insightful. Thank you for that. So moving on, let's talk e-commerce. When COVID came, it seemed like e-commerce was the new big term. Everybody was looking e-commerce, going digital. What is the future of e-commerce for consumer goods brands? Who would like to go first? Joseph, you can go first.
Okay. So you said direct to consumer. So direct to consumer is currently split into, say, e-commerce and the traditional hawking. Due to increased legislation in urban areas with all traffic zones, I know that hawking will reduce, and e-commerce will keep increasing year on year. One of the factors that would influence this is internet penetration rates and internet accessibility. So we expect more businesses to reach out to customers in the playground of the internet, because this is where people spend a significant amount of their time. In the future, in the next 5-10 years, I'm looking at something of a network economy where the end users, it's not a straight line value chain, it becomes like cyclical, where the consumers will have so much power in influencing even the production methods of getting their product, color, the variants they want. There'll be a lot of flexibility and inclusion from both from the consumers in the decision making related to their products, the ways they want to get their products, the way it should look like, the colors. So yes, e-commerce is going to grow. We are going to have a network economy where all the players will be interacting continually. This is the future that I see. And then, another thing that will facilitate the growth of e-commerce or direct to consumer is the influx of flexible payment options. It will basically facilitate these platforms. There have been conversations around fintech and traditional banks looking to give credits to people that buy on their platforms, and they are willing to receive payments over 6 months, over 1 year, payments breakdowns. For me, the most fascinating is that a couple of fintech companies are now willing to give out credit, not based on what your banking history is, but based on say your purchase history. Okay, this guy has been buying this particular product every month or every year, so he can afford it. We know that, okay, there's that pattern, there's that behavioral pattern, and companies, new fintech companies are willing to bank on behavior to give out credits. So I think because of this option, this flexible payment options, it will significantly grow the e-commerce space in Nigeria.
Okay, awesome. Tomisin, this will, I think, a question directed at you. So will it be a situation where, for example, this major brand will maybe have their own e-commerce platforms and sell directly to the consumers, or will they still maybe rent space on the likes of Jumia and Co, which it seems to be is the current modus operandi in the industry today? Will there be a situation where this big e-commerce platform will be bypassed, and then the brands own their own e-commerce platforms and sell directly to the consumers?
So I believe this will be an hybrid, with more tilting towards having the e-commerce platform. So more volumes will be done through the e-commerce platform, and it's just because of the way the big boys in the industry are set up. It's quite an overhead cost issue. So more from a business model point of view, opening e-commerce shops, investing in hardwares and assets and all of that, that's what most of this companies invest in. So I see it still remaining in the e-commerce platform, and then volumes are done from there. But for Nigeria specific, our e-commerce is still at its infantry, and I don't see it growing until we have a huge investment in infrastructure as a country. From bad roads to almost zero railway transportations, all of these factors contributes to an high overhead cost that this e-commerce company have to bear. And because of these factors, they are not able to compete competitively with the traditional stores. They can't even compete at the moment with modern trade stores. I would give you an exercise. Any product that you normally use, go to an open market, go and check for the price. Go to the modern trade stores, the ShopRite, the Spars, go check that same price, the price of that same product, and then go to Jumia and check the same price. You probably see that Jumia sells it for maybe ×3, index 300 of what you get in the open market. not because they want to make too much profit, but because they have to factor in all the overhead costs they will incur, from hiring a guy that will go do the delivery, buying the vans or the bike that will do the delivery, maintaining the bikes. All of this costs add up. And because we have very poor infrastructure in Nigeria, it's making it very difficult for e-commerce to grow. Will we get there as a country? Yes. Will it happen in the nearest future? No. But do brands need to start investing in that platform? Yes, because once e-commerce begin to grow in Nigeria, it's going to be the winner takes all. So brands must start investing today in your e-commerce platform, so you are super ready for the next wave of innovation to happen in that sector. But till we have a good infrastructure in Nigeria, I don't see e-commerce growing. I know this is not a popular opinion, but this is the hard truth.
Tobenna, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Sadly so, but I think let me just say a few things. So first things first is, be it e-commerce, be it so I'm sure Joseph and Tommy would know this. FMCG companies have also tried not just to do direct to consumer via e-commerce, but also direct to retailer via doing what you can call it anything, but I'll call it last mile distribution, where rather than have all these distributors and subs taking margins, you just supply the retailer directly. And Tommy has said it. The biggest issue is really that logistics cost, that cost of that delivery. For a very big distributor, you can load up in one truck, maybe, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000 cartons of whatever product. But for retailers, you have to supply them sometimes one carton at a time. So if one truck is taking 5,000 cartons and you're supplying one at a time, that means you have to do 5,000 deliveries or thereabouts to achieve the same volume of sales. So we can all calculate how much of a how much cost that would incur. So the question, sorry, I'm getting a little technical, but the question is this: how is the current traditional distribution chain able to get the product to the consumer for a cheaper rate than an e-commerce would achieve? Because at the end of the day, consumer is getting it today from the FMCG company at a certain price. So what's happening when the FMCG company tries to do it directly? Now, here's what happens. The cost of logistics is shared. So FMCG company supplies distributor, sub goes to distributor to pick up, or distributor supplies sub, but meaning that distributor or sub has taken up part of the logistics cost. Retailer visits sub, takes transport, either bus, bike, tricycle. So at the end of the day, consumer visits a store, either walking or gets into his car to go to ShopRite. So you find out that the logistics cost is like democratized, it's shared. But in an e-commerce station, the FMCG company takes on that entire cost, and that's why the cost to the consumer, is so much. So yes, until logistics is solved, and on the back of that, and logistics can only ride on infrastructure, as Tommy has said. But I think if you still insist that you want to crack e-commerce at least to some extent, and still maintain some level of viability. So here's the thing: there is demand for e-commerce. If you ask me if I wanted to sit at home and buy all my groceries, the answer is yes. So there's demand, but the issue is there demand at a cost that would be viable for the product owner or the FMCG company? The answer is no. So one of the things that this has been done by a company in Kenya called Kupia. Well, it's not necessarily in FMCG, but so they do more of dry goods and dry goods. Well, they do all sorts of
perishables.
Dry goods. No, non-perishables. What is not dry goods? It's dry goods. So they do wheelbarrows, farm utensils, just small home appliances. And what they do, which is very interesting, is they aggregate demand. So rather than say, so let me just walk you a little through. So rather than say, go on your phone and order a wheelbarrow, for example, they say, you know what? There's a kiosk in this area. Go to that kiosk, everybody order, and then a delivery will be made once in a week. So is there a way by which companies can say, you know what, rather than you order and you get it today or you get it tomorrow, we have a spot, say, we have one spot, say, in one, so we can say for serving the whole of, let's say, Unilag, University of Lagos, or, a school, we have a spot in a location, order what you want, everything will be delivered, say, every Friday. So if you want to get as fast as possible, say you order on Thursday, and it will be delivered to this one location, and everybody goes there and picks it up. Easier said than done, I know, but you need to start thinking creatively about how to make e-commerce work. So it definitely won't work with the traditional Jumia Konga model, but you need to start thinking a way of maybe aggregating different orders, delivering it to one location, this just as an example, and then the consumer would even share a little of that cost of pickup, because that's always that's where the cost really lies. So creativity in how to crack this. The demand is there, 65 million and counting smartphones. People would not mind to pick this thing up close to them, as close as possible as it is to where they are. But what makes it unworkable really is the viability for the company that owns the products. And the car company has started thinking very creatively about how to go about it.
So going by what you said, certain things you mentioned about aggregating demand, is it possible that we'll see a subscription model of purchasing consumer goods in Nigeria, in Africa? I know such models have worked in some parts of the West. Is it possible that can work? Because in a subscription model, demand can be aggregated. So is that a possibility in Africa? Anyone can go now. Yeah,
I think it's possible, but you have to be super targeted with who your consumers are. You have to be clear that only the Nigeria one. So Nigeria one, I mean the consumer segment. So this would typically be people who earn about 500,000 naira in a family household income and above. So those kind of people has a lot of disposable income. Yeah, you can get some subscription model out of it. But now the question is, given the size of price is quite small, just a niche consumer segment, is it scalable? Because at the end of the day, scale matters when it comes to building a business, right? So that's where the real work will be, trying to drive scale, drive your cost of production down, your cost of distribution, your logistic cost to the barest minimum, so you can make so much margin and sell at the right price. But yes, I think it's doable, but it's only have to do with the Nigeria one consumers.
Okay, awesome. And Joseph, you want to add to that?
I'm sorry, my network was back for a moment. I didn't hear the last few sentences said. So.
Okay, so Tobenna had spoken about e-commerce looking for a model where there is aggregation of demand. So I asked, is it possible that a subscription model works in Nigeria the way it has worked in some parts of the West, where people pay to get regular supply of the products that they use regularly? So for example, a consumer of Jameson, a product that you currently manage, is it possible where someone would say, oh, I consume Jameson regularly, so I would like to be on a subscription to receive Jameson and never have to worry about running out?
I'm not very sure if I'm not positive about that. it's possible, but I won't place a bet on it. Our customers will be willing to pay because they have a wide range of products that they buy, and the amount of effort or mental effort required to follow up with one product or focus on one product in such a way, if it's a necessity, if it's a product they cannot live without, yes, I can imagine that. But or the average product, say for Jameson or Co, I don't see that happening. But the bit about aggregating orders, I think it's happening already, and it's the future. And not just consumer data and consumer orders, retailer orders in several locations can be aggregated and the supply made all at once. So aggregating data, yes, that is great. That will really work.
Thank you very, very much. I see there's been lots of questions and comments in the chat section. Thank you so much for your comments. I will see if I can take a few of the comments. We'll take questions after the session. Tayo Olatunji says, I totally agree that e-commerce will experience very slow growth. Check out Jumia's 2020 report. It was a decline even in the COVID era when other countries are experiencing a huge jump. What other comments? So from Tayo Olatunji also, I think okay was replying to Ibrahim. We'll take your questions when we are done discussing. And I think we are pressed for time. We'll just talk about one. There are lots of things we can talk about as regards the future of FMCG, but we'll just take one last discussion. Looking at the world generally, there's been a trend about majorly in the West. I would like to see how it's spreads down to Africa and Nigeria in particular, where there has been more a shift towards responsible consumption, in the sense that now a lot of consumers want to know what they consume, want to know that this my product doesn't have a high carbon footprint, want to know that these products are being bought from places where maybe labor is not being exploited. They want to know that my products are organic, those kind of responsible consumption. Are Nigerians and Africans concerned about that? Will they be concerned about that? If so, how soon will it happen that maybe brands start moving towards organic or less harmful production processes and stuff like that? Who goes first? Tomisin, you can. Okay, Joseph wants to share his thought. Please go ahead.
All right. I think we're already seeing this happen. We saw the trend of herbal products and a lot of companies coming up with herbal variants. We're seeing fast foods that are dedicated to healthy living, and it is going to continue. So far, we keep interacting with the West, with the Western world. We are bound to keep seeing such behavioral changes. I mean, in my time with Unilever, I had a chunk of customers that were always asking for non-MSG seasoning because of all the talk around the harmful effect of no and ghee. And yes, people are more conscious of the kind of products they buy and use. And that number, although at the moment is a minute percentage of our customers, and I know it will keep growing, but I will not advise any company to target those customers as their full focus. We had a few companies in the past, brands around such kind of thinking, and it really did not work because it can't scale. If it's a volume business, if you need the numbers, such grand, nice thinking won't give it to you. Yeah.
Okay. Also, I couldn't quite hear you. I think you were breaking a little bit there, but I hope every other person was able to get some. Tobenna wants to speak. Tobenna,
I could hear Joseph. So
okay, awesome.
So apologies for missing out on the very useful insights he gave. But here's the thing. I think we also have to look at, just echoing what Joseph has said. The majority of Nigerians are not very high on the Maslow pyramid. Many of us are just struggling to survive. So a lot of these concerns might not be concerns for us at this point in time, unless things improve significantly. That being said, this is I think when we talk about ethics, because we're delving into the area of ethical consumption. I think ethics are also very are very, what's the word to use? Will I say different markets, different countries should have their different ethics. So if an affluent market is saying they care more about the type of labor that went into producing even the raw materials for the product, maybe for us the ethics might be different. For us the ethics might be no babalawo was involved in the production of this product, or something like that. But the point I'm trying to make is, if brands can also be proactive in saying, understanding what it is that matters to the market, and trying to tell the story. So, for example, case in point is just as Joseph said about herbal products. We all know how we had over the past, say, decade or so, how herbal bitters just took over, and for many of its consumers, it was really more about a healthier. Yes, you get your high, but it's a healthier alternative to some other products. I know was it Action Bitters that was also advertising their products saying no sugar included or something of that nature. So the point is, you have to look at your market and tell a story around quote and unquote ethics that might appeal to that market. So you don't just take something from another environment, what another environment considers to be ethical, and just transplant. So yeah, I think that's also another way to look at it, and brands that are proactive in that area can actually tell a story that can give them some very good mileage.
Thank you very, very much. Tomisin, anything to add?
Yes. So for me, I would categorize into two. So the food industry and then every other person. I think the food industry is there. People are getting more aware about what they eat, the sugar level, the diabetes that can come out of that, and cancer is also making all of this become a very much more common problem that we face, and people are much more intentional about what they eat and how cancerous it may be, right? But for every other thing, I think Nigerians don't care. And it's not because we actually do not care. It's more of from an economic point of view. Why should I pay more to buy a product that is not made of plastic? Okay, plastic can damage the ocean, blah blah blah. Okay, will it affect me personally? Maybe not. Why should I not buy a company that runs on a generator, or a company that has a solar inverter installed all over its plants to power it? Okay. Are they damaging the universe? Maybe. Is it affecting me? No. Okay, so from every other point of view, apart from food, I think we are not there yet. However, I think it would be irresponsible for any organization not to put all of this into consideration and try to run a green energy, zero waste to landfill, reducing more of your plastic waste, and you've seen a lot of this multinational taking actions, making commitments, pledging to Vision 2050, we're going to be zero plastic, blah, blah, blah. So it's the trend that is coming, but as Nigerian consumers, we are not there yet. So the only section, I know that Nigeria are very particular about what they do is food. People are careful about what they eat because we don't want to have cancer, right?
Yes, definitely. And I agree a lot with what everyone has said, in the sense that we might not be there yet, but it's very important that we keep monitoring our consumers so we can spot at that critical point when these consumers get there. So at the end of the day, you don't get left behind in the past, which is where it boils back down to constantly collecting feedback, data, and opinions from your consumers, so you can accurately predict when that change and when that shift happens, because it can be drastic. And if you are not able to stay ahead of the curve, you can be left in the past. I think we are way beyond our expected time of 1 p.m. Just quick one, last words from everyone before we take questions. If there was going to be one technology or trend, one technological advancement or trend that you think every player in the FMCG industry should be monitoring right now, one technological advancement or trend, what would it be? Quick one from all our speakers. Joseph, let's start with you.
So for me, as a marketer, I would say the way we reach our audience from a media point of view, I think people are shifting from the terrestrial TV we know to more of cable, and recently you see them in the digital platform. So you see YouTube, Instagram, Facebook coming, and it's actually much more cost effective for companies to, you can be laser targeted, unlike TV. I know, okay, by this time, father, mother, and 2 kids will be probably in front of their TV watching a program. However, I sell alcohol. So what time is it best for me to reach just the father, because the mother doesn't drink and they will not allow their children to drink. So I'm paying so that 4 people in a particular family, I want to pay you to reach just 1 person. However, there is a waste because the 4 people are watching it and I don't need 3 of them to watch it. But unfortunately, the media company will charge me because they are delivering my advert to 4 people, right? So you cannot, there is a limit to how laser targeted you can be with the terrestrial TV, and the shift is coming and it's going hard. For now, I've been saying about 11 million reach on digital platform that they can deliver to specific target audiences for some of my brands, right? So 11 million is enough. The entire media TV reach is somewhere around 60 million-ish, thereabout, right? So they're already coming up about 20%, right? So it's just a matter of time before they get to 40%, 50%. 80% and 90% like the US is today. Okay, so that's the big trend I think everybody should watch out for, and align your media spend accordingly.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joseph. Tomisin, one big trend or technology everyone in the space should be looking out for. Hello, Tomisin. You had unmuted yourself just now. Okay, we
just spoke.
Okay. Oh, it was Tomisin that was speaking. Oh, Joseph.
Yes.
Oh, I thought. Oh, sorry about that. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, this is Joseph.
Yes. Sorry for the mix-up.
Yeah, it's all right. So I think distribution measurements, tools to help companies better measure the places where their products are being sold is going to be a major game changer for most companies. Measuring the spaces your product stays in the digital space and in the physical space, it is enough to actually transform and give your brands or your products the kind of growth you're looking for. So I think that's significant. I think companies should look out more for better ways of measuring distribution.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joseph.
draw a blank. But just thinking about it, I'm thinking that I believe that the industry is really going through a rough patch because of just the economy, and I think that one thing I see is that it's seeing and praying, but this is just the 7 years of farming, and eventually the economy is always those for businesses that have been around for decades and decades. They've seen the rise and the fall. So I feel that the economy is going to eventually come on, be on demand, begin to boom again. And given all the holes that we have in infrastructure and all that stuff, rail lines are being constructed, internet penetration, the economy will eventually rebound. So I think brands that can weather the storm, keep chugging along, will eventually see that the environment, well, hopefully also, without trying to get political, expect that even within the next 2 years, things will get better, and then brands the brands that survive will begin to do better again, because you can never divorce the wider economy from FMCG. It's the only industry where you find one of its products in every home, consumed by every single Nigerian. So you can't divorce it from the economy. I believe that these are like some of the worst years in recent history, and when things come on demand, those who have been able to go through this farming phase will find a better environment to thrive in. So Tomisin and Joseph, just hang in there.
Tomisin and Joseph, you've heard Tobenna, please hang in there. You would come out at the end of the tunnel. I think Ibrahim Abdulmalik says, I feel it will be technologies that can improve access to real-time data across the supply chain. We are looking at how rigid our chains were in response to COVID. And what we know is key is building resilience into the chain, which starts with access to data in real time. I couldn't agree more with you, Ibrahim. I think you are absolutely right. Real-time data will be a game changer in the industry. And I'm glad that my company, Chekkit, is adequately placed to reap the fruits of the boom. I'm so sorry we can't take more questions from our guests. Time is fast spent. We're already about 15 minutes above schedule. So please pardon me. Recordings from this session will be shared with everyone that had registered for this event. I'm sure it's everyone on the call right now. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your time. I hope we learned a thing or two from our panelists, and I hope we have gone away with something that we will definitely use to better our businesses. Final words from our panelists, please. Final words from Joseph, Tomisin, and Tobenna. Okay, in absence of final words. Okay,
so thank you so much, everybody. It was really an insightful session for me personally, learning from Joseph and Toby. It's quite an honor. And so for me, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or you're a business manager like me working for an organization, don't overinvest in Nigeria. Ensure you assess the potential well, and you are absolutely data driven about the size of price. Okay, so that way, if you have to start small, continue to grow and accelerate from there. Okay? I'm an advocate of understand what the size of price is and don't overinvest in Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Final words, Joseph.
Right. Thank you for having me here, and I've learned a few things from two other panelists, and then also from the comment thread from the chat box, especially from Ibrahim and Moturayo. I've learned stuff. Thank you very much. And for small businesses out there, I'll say now is the worst time, maybe in the history of Nigeria, to give credit to your customers. Don't. There are several options now, several ways to, several companies willing to facilitate this payment for them. Let them go through this means, but do not give out your credit. This is the worst time for that. Even the multinationals, the big boys, are pulling out of credit sales, so you should not be offering that to anybody. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Final words, Tobenna.
Okay, so for me, so first things first, thank you, Tomisin and Joseph. Thank you also, Tosin, for the opportunity, and to everybody on this webinar, sorry. Thank you, everyone. And for all those who commented, Moturayo was very active. Thank you for your activity. And for everybody else, Ibrahim, Uyileri, and Tayo, and every other person. Final word, I will just say that, and this is just a personal, it's just a personal trait I would just like to share. I think, you know, as business people, business leaders, we need to be very, let's see, the word might be exploratory in the way we look at problems and think about problems. We live in a time where the best practices are not necessarily the best practices. A lot of assumptions, a lot of things that we come to know as the gospel. We're realizing that there's so many, there are listed a lot of holes. So I enjoy everybody to operate with have a very exploratory mind, where you're always saying, oh, I know a lot, but can I know more? You know, be very rigorous in the way you see things. Know some things for sure, but know that, you know, things can always change. I guess, long story short, always be in a constant state of paranoia, where you know that, you know, whatever it is, you know, is just a drop in the bucket compared to, you know, what is out there. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you very, very, very much. Thanks to all our panelists for honoring our invitation, and to every single one who registered and attended the event. Thank you so much. We hope to continue doing this and helping everyone who plays in the sector with valuable information to help them grow their businesses. If you would like to find out about what Chekkit does, you can visit our website, www.checkitapp.com, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Oluwatomisin Adelowo. I'm very open to having conversations as to how Chekkit can help your business grow. So until we do this again, thank you for joining us, and have a great day and have a great week ahead. Bye, guys.
Yeah,
Bye, guys.
bye.